everybody. Well, thank you for dropping by. I am Alec, Director of Broadcasting at One True Promotion.
Andrew Bash, Chief Operating Officer.
And I'm Nick, Arts and Media Director.
And you are watching Drop a Line from 8 to 9. Tonight we are talking about science fiction and adventure with the amazing Matthew Romeo, who has just released a new book. Let's give Matt a warm welcome. This is Drop a Line. What's up, Mr. Romeo?
Hey, how's it going, Alec?
Going great. It is so good to have you back. What do you think of the new presentation?
Dude, seeing all these intros, like I'm back here just geeking out. Like that was some top-notch stuff, man. Bravo.
It is a team effort. Andrew and Nick have been indispensable, let me tell you. But Matt, we are all so happy to have you back this evening. For those of you who don't know, you are watching Drop a Line, and this is our first section featuring myself hosting. I personally, Matt, would really love to reintroduce you to the Drop a Line crowd by talking about a little thing called the Maven Knight Trilogy. Your first book in this series is all about a group called the Maven Knights, but I'm just wondering, what is a Maven Knight?
What is a Maven Knight? So the Maven Knights were the old marshals of law and order in the book's history. They were the ancient knights of order. They harnessed advanced technological armor that was combined with magic. In the New World, they're presently extinct, but there's hints of them in the world, and everyone's kind of trying to figure out what they are and what they can bring for the future.
That is really, really cool. That is such a cool setup to the book. Of course, I am a little bit biased because I am currently reading it and very much enjoying it. But I really do think that you have, mastered the art of creating intrigue by who you center your story around. Speaking of which, this story has two main characters. They are Talir and Serena, at least as far as I've read. Now, without spoiling too much, what can you tell us about each of them?
Well, avoiding spoilers, so Talir is the main male POV. He's a scavenger from the desert. He's a bit of a history nut. He loves unearthing things from the past. He has a bit of an obsession with the past, considering he doesn't know where he's from. He doesn't know who his parents were. So that's kind of leading into his journey throughout the book. Whereas Serena, she is a brewer in the big capital city of one of the nations. She gets swept up in this intrigue, as you say, and she's trying to figure out why she was targeted and unearth some of the secrets of this organization that targeted her.
That is really cool. And having read some of those early chapters, I definitely felt that you were very adept at starting the story right in the middle of the action. Because I remember, I don't know much about who Serena is. I get some of the kind of the key details, just enough to sort of follow the character. Mm-hmm. But to understand that the wolves are already gathered at her doorstep, and I don't even know who they are, I just can feel that strong sense of danger early on. How important is that, do you think, in starting a book, particularly a book series?
I think it's incredibly important because I've been inspired by all kinds of works throughout my life that have started in the middle of the action. The one that I always refer to is Star Wars. Like when you just see that opening title, stuff has been going on, and then you get dropped right into the action. That's where I kind of approach my storytelling as well, because like any tale, it's good to reveal stuff slowly instead of just having it all dropped on you right at the beginning. So creating a little bit of intrigue, opening with some action, like that is kind of how you are able to hook either a reader or a viewer. So that's where I come from as a storyteller.
Well, that is the magic word, because if I think back to all of my elementary, middle, high school experience lessons, they talk about the hook, the hook, the hook, the hook. How do you hook them in? So since we're on the subject of hooks, here's something that really hooks me into the Maven Knight trilogy.
Mhm.
Again, without spoilers, what exactly happened during the ending?
During the what? I think you broke up for a second. Sorry.
During the ending,
During the ending.
what transpired?
I can't get into too many spoilers with that because
Wow.
that's technically not revealed until the third book.
Oh,
There's hints as to what happens, and you might be able to piece it together, throughout the book. But it was a cataclysmic event that basically just laid waste to the previous world a thousand years ago. There were of course survivors. Stuff was left over, but for the most part, it was just this big wipe of everything on the world.
well, that is pretty exciting. I mean, you've got intrigue, you've got organizations, you've got secrets, and you've got a cataclysmic event that might have we don't really know how, but it might have been responsible for all of this. I mean, you've got all the makings of just a very fascinating and high stakes world. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
Did that all come to you at once, or did it come to you gradually, different puzzle pieces?
So bits of it were kind of there from the beginning. I tell the story a lot, which was the first part of the book was inspired by a Dungeons and Dragons campaign. A lot of the elements were there in that story. The like the nanite storms. The party members that kind of have to survive in the desert. That was all in that session that I kind of took some liberties with. But for the most part, I wrote the first book kind of just on the seat of my pants, and it wasn't until I was closing the book off that I decided to make it a trilogy and start, revising things that would fit into the broader story.
Well, that gives me a lot of hope, let me tell you, because I have started stories, as it turns out, that really were painted with a narrow brush in the beginning, and then painting with a broad brush is
Yeah,
fun later, but it often comes with that sense of, wait, how does this connect with what's already there? And can't really be
exactly.
rewritten because it's already published. Like,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Wait, Harry's invisibility cloak is one of the Deathly Hallows? I thought this was a common thing in the world. What?
Spoilers, man. Spoilers.
Oh,
My
sorry.
goodness.
Sorry, I forgot Deathly Hallows has been out for 10 plus years.
Um, it is awesome to hear about the Maven Knight trilogy. I definitely encourage everybody to buy it. Here is
Thank
the
you.
book. For those of you who haven't seen the cover, this is Maven Knight. This is what you will see on Amazon if you are purchasing the correct book, although nothing else does exist under that title, thankfully. It's great to hear about your book, but one thing we also want to talk about tonight a little bit, Matt, we can kind of start to even answer questions, a little bit more, even more broadly than we are. We want to talk about science fiction and adventure, and specifically how your writing fits into these categories. The Maven Knight, I would argue, falls into the science fiction genre. What can science fiction fans expect when they crack open your first book?
Ooh, that's a good one. So what they can really expect is is big, I would say, like high concept themes. That's kind of where I approached it because I didn't develop it initially as a science fiction book. It was more of a steampunk fantasy book that evolved into science fiction, almost science fantasy, as I like to categorize it as. So there's the high concept, the big themes, the themes of found family, what can you do with this power, like once you've obtained it, you know. There's a lot of big science fiction themes in there. And then with regards to the technology, it's kind of basic. I don't go too detailed into the technology. It's kind of just it's there. But you get some cool science fiction armor. You get hovering ships. You get speeder bikes. Basically, there's some weird creatures in there. They're not super space creatures, but they're kind of just like evolutions of modern creatures. that have been like kind of, I guess, over exaggerated.
Well, that's really cool though, because you're not like in Star Trek, you have the Klingons, the Romulans, and it's very much there are different races and societies and federations, but you're not just pulling from what's already been done. Like you're writing a story that can be placed into the science fiction genre, but really, like you said, your creatures have evolved from just more kind of, natural things almost.
Yeah, absolutely. Because kind of what I was intending for this world in the Maven Knight was it's up to the reader's interpretation to determine if it is Earth. It could be Earth. It could not be. It could be something like far in the future. It could be a different planet. That's what I really love about writing stories, is leaving some interpretations up to the readers.
And that's a very engaging way to write. This is why we love talking to you. We have a lot in common, I think, in terms of how we approach storytelling. So it's always just a fun kind of kindred discussion. We have a question from the audience. Ariel, bring watching. Thank you for watching.
Thank
Since
you.
I know you enjoy making reels, we'll talk about that later, showing writers different ways to use various weapons. How are the action scenes in this book? And we could talk about the whole trilogy here.
Well, I write action scenes. I wrote the action scenes for the Maven Knight in a very visceral way. The book is first person present, so you get every thought that's coming through the character's mindsets like instantly. So when they say I swing the sword, or I meet his sword in midair, then you're following the action as it's happening. There's no predetermined, well, of course there's a predetermined outcome, but it's like you're following the path instead of kind of getting that bird's eye view of it. So that's how I like to describe the Maven Knight's action scenes. Is they're very visceral, they're very grounded. You get a lot of the deeper character thoughts and emotions through those. So like when if someone makes a kill during the action scene, then you get like their exact like POV reaction to how it happens.
That is really cool. Thank you, Ariel, for that great question from the audience. To our friends who are watching, we do encourage asking the hosts and guests questions, particularly the guests, because we want to learn all about them. So thank you. Keep the questions coming in, everybody. So I guess we've stumbled a little bit into this territory already, but we can always push farther. I wanted to ask you, what are some of the challenges that are unique to writing the Maven Knight?
Ooh, so the challenges that I had, was mainly the big challenge was not having a community to draw on. Like I wrote the first two books, just on my own. I had a story that I wanted to tell, but I had no clue as to, self-publishing or, how to approach, editing and asking for feedback, getting reviews. So that was my biggest stumbling block for my first three books. I've definitely learned. We've got a wonderful community of writers. You among them. You, Andrew, and Nick. You guys have been fantastic resources. Dude, we've known each other 2 years. Like that's crazy.
Oh my goodness! I still feel like I just came out of quarantine.
Exactly. Like those 2 years just blurred together, and it feels like they barely even happened. But yeah, that was kind of my biggest hiccup with writing the Maven Knights was the publishing process, and then of course editing. When I release my stuff, I'm fickle about certain things, but for the most part, I think it's flawless, and that's a very bad trait. So I made sure to have some friends beta read it and give me feedback, but it wasn't the same as like getting fellow authors to give feedback.
Yeah, no, that makes a whole lot of sense. And consider book one, and then consider the beginning of book one and then the end of book three when you're approaching those last chapters. Like, how did the challenges change at that point?
Ooh, okay. So funny story is I actually wrote one of the final chapters for the third book when I was writing the first book, because that's how far I had envisioned the ending, or at least the final scene of the book. So the ending of the third book was predetermined about 3 years in advance, which I think is a good trademark of a story, is when you know where it's going so that you can lead to it. But I think the first book really suffered from my frantic like storytelling. Like a lot of stuff is like a lot of the POVs are, you know, broken up. They're frantic. It kind of slows down and it gets a little bit more thought out as the trilogy goes on. I think book 3 has the least frantic thought processes, even though it's a very action packed book.
That's awesome. That makes so much sense to me, because even I've recently been, realizing that I become very, adrenaline induced when I'm writing action scenes, but it actually hurts the writing because I need to be in a calm, focused state to work out all of those intricate details. So that's actually really fascinating to hear you say that. Well, this section is about to wrap up, but we do have one more question from Ariel. Ooh. She says, I believe you said one of your main characters was a woman. Did you find it difficult to write first person from a point of view?
Great question. And that is something that, I wouldn't say it's a struggle. It's definitely a challenge because, any character, regardless of gender, as long as you have their voice in your head, you can write them. But making sure that it's the character is accurate to the gender is very important. And that's why I had 2 female beta readers check my work on the Maven Knight trilogy. They gave their insights. They said, no, this isn't how a woman would think, or this is how a woman would think. I had to tailor it to, her fighting style would be, very different from a man's fighting style, which, try not to, push any buttons or anything, but it was important to, understand the differences between a male's POV and a female's POV.
Sure, absolutely. No, thank you for another awesome question.
Yeah, that was
Matt,
a great question.
This section really helped us to just get into your mind and understand not just, the genre you write in, but just how you sort of take what you're writing and make it your own. Thank you for sharing with us about your process and all the people who work together with you, in this artistic community. It's awesome. Well, before I move on to the next section, I would like to do a quick book plug. That will be each of the hosts can give a quick book plug on their way out. My book is called Barker's Rules. Barker's Rules is about a girl who is fighting for her life against the evil Justin Barker, who is a superhuman serial murderer from a very mysterious place called the Meridian. And Justin Barker has Melanie in his grip. But what will she do as she attempts to escape? Will she have to find a way to overpower him, or will becoming more like him be her surest way to freedom? I don't know. You'll have to read and find out for yourselves. But this is Drop a Line. Matt, thank you for being here. We're going to do a quick commercial. How you feeling so far?
Feeling great. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, Alec.
It's always to talk to you, and I love talking Maven Knight. Again, this is the Maven Knight. We'll be plugging this for Matt all night long. But he has another book out much more recently, and we're going to talk about that in the next session. So don't go anywhere.
Hello there, Matt.
Hello there, Nicholas.
It's been a while since you and I have seen each other on screen together. It's been writing sprints, I think was the last time.
Yeah, that was almost a year and a half ago or such. Gosh, dude, it's been a while. It's great to see you.
Those 2 years were a blur for me.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Well, I'll get my book plug out of the way, by the way. So we got Life is Death, The Death of Earth. This is the first novel I published back in 2015. The book's about, as of July 7 Yeah, 7 years old now, but I'm still working at it. As you might know, Matt, and people who follow me, I'm going to be rebooting this series. And again, not that I'm disappointed with anything here, but I'm taking the story. It's going to be a little shorter, basically. This was kind of designed to be 5 books, but I don't want to write for 5 books. Really, it's a little much. We're going to do anywhere between 1 and 3. It kind of just depends how things pan out. But if you're interested in checking out Life is Death, the Death of Earth, it's about a boy named Daichi Hara who gets turned into a death by the Shadow Man. Mysterious shadowy figure comes into his room and tells him, I have chosen you, Daichi Hara, to be my death. And so Daichi is tasked with having to stabilize the world population by killing people, 1,000 people per month. And if they accomplish this, they live forever and do not age. However, if they do not meet this quota, they die. And to do this, they're given an element, one of the 4 elements, which is either fire, earth, water, or air, or wind, I should say. And Daichi is the death of Earth, as in the title. But some deaths are good, some deaths are bad. And Daichi has to figure out his way as he traverses through a very difficult task which is set before him.
Which can I just say how cool that synopsis sounds?
Yeah. I gotta say, Matt,
great.
I'm not just saying it because I wrote it, but I think you really would. I think you would like it, based on the kinds of stories you would write. And yeah, I definitely recommend checking it out. It's kind of my baby, as you can kind of tell. It was always boy becomes death. That's sort of what hit me. Kind of like Harry Potter was boy finds out he's wizard. Mine is boy finds out he's death. But the key, I thought, was not just one death, but what if there were other deaths?
Yeah.
Because I thought at first, originally, there would just be one, like he would be it. But then I thought, wait a minute, what if there were 3 others who were all very different and different ages and from different backgrounds? So anyway, not to go on too much about that, but I appreciate your interest.
Of
but
course,
we gotta talk about how do you pronounce it? And Arrhenius?
So it is pronounced Irenaeus, and trust me, it took me a while to figure out how to pronounce it too. I was pronouncing it as Irenaeus for the longest time, but then I understood the actual like Greek-ish pronunciation is Irenaeus. And I'm like, I've been calling this the wrong thing.
It sounds very cool. Irenaeus.
Thank you.
So Irenaeus, the Outrider Saga, book 1. This is your newest book, right?
Yep. My newest book came out August 9th.
Well, we got to talk about it. So first off, you've just published a book about a galactic soldier turned thief, which is a really cool concept, in my opinion. So how did you get that idea?
Well, it's a concept I got way back in 2013, 2014. I had just gotten into Firefly, and Malcolm Reynolds was, he was a great character. The ex-soldier turned smuggler in the galaxy with his, witty crew and his spaceship. I initially wrote the first 2 chapters back in 2014, but then I shelved the project because I had no idea what to do with it. So it kind of took a little bit of finagling and working to, really figure out what I wanted to do with the book. Because originally it was just going to be an action adventure book. But then, I rewatched Ocean's 11 a few years ago, and I was like, you know what? I want to do a heist book at some point. That would be fun. So I kind of combined it with the whole space western meets heist story. So.
Oh man, that's so great. That's I love heist stuff, and I'm glad you're tackling this. Kind of makes you think, like, the blending of genres. And I know we're talking about tonight science fiction and action adventure. That's like one of my favorites.
Yeah,
and I'm glad you're tackling it, and I think I will check it out. But what genre would you say this falls into?
This is full-on science fiction adventure. Maven Knight has a little bit more fantasy elements, so I classify that as science fantasy, but this is full-on science fiction, with different planets, different alien races, technology, technobabble, as I call it. this is a book where I made sure to get some science fact checkers to make sure that the technology was in sync. And I even, they even gave their 2 cents on, resource management and like the far future stuff I'd never even thought about.
That's really fascinating. It's good that it's a way to make it more authentic, right? The process.
That was a big thing too, was to make it authentic. And because that's my big fear of writing science fiction, is coming up with technology and then someone who is way smarter than me at science would be like, no, that's not how that works.
Yep, it happens. Although Star Wars, I would say, is pretty kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
It's like, we just want cool glowing lightsabers at the end.
Yeah,
of the
let's
day.
just have
We don't need to
swords.
explain it.
Don't think about it.
You don't think about it. The midi-chlorians powered sabers, actually. Just kidding. Sorry, George Lucas. I will not go down that rabbit hole tonight. So anyway, Matt, what attracts you to the genre of science fiction and adventure?
That's a great question. I think it's mainly just those are the kind of stories I grew up with. The first movie that I ever saw was Jurassic Park.
Oh yes,
yeah, I was a wee
I forget
lad.
that's a sci-fi film. Sometimes,
Yeah,
I usually think of it as like an adventure escape film, but it is a sci-fi film. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, for like, especially for the '90s, like that kind of stuff was like, what? Like, nowhere would we have thought about this. And it's my all-time favorite movie. I watch it religiously almost. I've actually recently read the book last summer, which was very different from the movie.
Oh yeah, there is a book, Michael Crichton. Yeah,
yes, sir. So that's kind of where it started off. I was always playing with the Jurassic Park toys, trying to like do like a what if scenario in those movies. And then, of course, it branched off into, I started watching Star Wars, playing Star Wars games, getting into the Halo franchise. So like that's really where my draw for science fiction came from.
Yeah, that's a good variety pack right there to pull from. Your book, the back of your book, I believe, says heists rarely go according to plan. So is there anything you can tell us about how this heist ends up going wrong?
Well, let's just say that you can plan a heist to its finest detail, but you can never account for people making stupid mistakes. It's that's kind of the draw for heist movies, though, or heist stories, I should say, is there's this complex, intricate plan, but you as the viewer, the reader, know it's not all going to go as easy as that. And I think that's kind of the fun of heist stories. It's like seeing how they adapt to these new problems, or like how something that they found early on could fix one of the new problems.
Yeah, that's really cool. Now I could divide this next question up into two sections. So I want to ask you about what books or movies. But you know what? Let's start with books. What books would you say inspired you to write your own heist story?
The one that I go to just completely for heist stuff is Mistborn: The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. It's a fantasy heist story. It's a little bit of a mix of epic fantasy meets quirky heist. But that's kind of the one where it really sold me on, like, dude, heists are great stories, especially if they're combined with other genres, like to kind of give them those unique flavors. Because Ocean's 11 like is a fantastic movie, but there's tons of other movies like that. I can't even really list them.
You're
all.
Crossing into movies now. All right, we're getting into movies. You got to so you know a little about me. I'm kind of a film buff, sort of like I do video work professionally, so I'm deep into that.
Nice.
And I do want to say two ones that stick out to me. So when I got into filmmaking was Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah, that's a good one.
You know that I know that one isn't. It's cool because it's the aftermath of a heist. You actually never see the heist in that film, which I thought was a very cool spin. And another one, and this isn't a heist movie, but I really love the opening scene of The Dark Knight.
I was just thinking about that. Oh, that's crazy.
It's like that's its own short film. Like you could take that scene and that could be its own little Joker short film, right?
Joker origin story, like short film on YouTube. Yeah, absolutely. Like that's another good one. And even like that, the rest of that movie is kind of a bit of a Joker heist kind of thing, where
Oh yeah,
he's got plays on plays on plays that he's just making against Gotham.
but he burns the money
But
because
he
he was never
burns the
interested
money.
in money
Yep.
in the very end.
That's the heart of a true thief, where he's like, it wasn't about the money, it was about the game.
Yeah, some men just want to watch the
What's the
world
world
burn.
Yeah.
Those are great, man. Are there any other ones that I haven't thought of that are your some favorite movies?
I'd say Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one. That's a
yeah.
little bit of a heist movie.
More fun, right? See, so the ones we brought up before were kind of more somber, more dark, especially
Yeah.
Reservoir Dogs. I mean, like everybody dies in Reservoir Dogs. You know?
I guess that's a little bit about heist stories that I enjoy. Is most of the time it's an uplifting kind of it's not a really like that. I will say Reservoir Dogs is the exception, but most heist films it's like there's adversity, but everybody comes out like pretty willy nilly at the end.
Yeah, and also I did just want to throw out I'm a big anime fan too, as you probably have seen me do anime art, and I gotta tell you, man, sci-fi and anime are like a great married couple.
Absolutely.
I'll have to send you like there's older anime I'm into. There's this one series I love called Galaxy Express 999, and that's about this boy whose mother is killed by these robots. It's in like the future in space, and he wants to get a robot body so he can kill the robots, and he joins this mysterious woman named Maytel, and it's all about space trains. They fly on space trains. They are trains, like steam trains that fly through space, and it's one of those beautiful things where like they don't need to explain it. It's just cool and beautiful, and not to mention mech. Have you seen anything mech related at all with
I've seen like Neon what's it? Evangelion. Yeah,
Yes,
sorry, I was mixing up the name, but yeah, Evangelion. The one that I was going to reference was Cowboy Bebop as well. It's just being a great sci-fi anime.
And a little bit of not heist. I get they're bounty hunters actually.
So it's like the sci-fi western. That's where I kind of. So I wasn't necessarily inspired by that, but it's like now that I think about it, I was like, yeah, that's a good reference.
Well, I'm glad you brought it up because I was actually trying to get there because that's a brilliant classic anime, but yet has the sci-fi element, but with that western sort of adventure vibe, right?
Yeah, absolutely, and just Spike is awesome.
Spike is awesome. I mean, like
great.
We'll never write a character as good as Spike. I shouldn't say that, but we can only dream, right?
Exactly.
See you later, Space Cowboy.
They're just anime characters in general are just always so well written. Like even in some of the crappier animes, it's just like the anime characters are just they're so memorable.
I always find something original with anime whenever I find like sometimes things feel stale out there in terms of creativity, meaning like sometimes mainstream for me, but anime, I'll always find something unique that's outside the box,
Oh, absolutely.
It's an endless treasure trove like Cowboy Bebop there, which probably did inadvertently influence you somewhat along the way.
I'll agree to that. It probably did. I'd say it was an unconscious inspiration.
Yes. And before I close out my section and take it over to Andrew, I did want to mention one thing. This is a little off the subject of the book, but I hopped in on one of your, I think, live streams, and I asked you a question about writing style, or not writing style, but writing process. And I wanted to tell you that, see, I used to outline kind of aggressively, and I would kind of fret and keep questioning my plot points. But recently with the 5 deaths, I've been kind of freewheeling it more so than I ever would, because I want to tell you that I've kind of found that I've been following a new rule of thumb, like just try it, read it. If you like it, you're good. If you don't like it, just get rid of it. And that way I'm not second guessing myself before I do anything. I don't know if that makes sense, but sometimes
Makes
with
perfect
plotting,
sense.
it's hard to sum up all the nuances in like a bullet point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that was a fantastic question, by the way. Thank you for that. And yeah, I'm happy to hear that you're kind of tweaking your style so that you're not just sticking to like a regiment, because that's when writing can get stale, is when you stick to what you've been doing, even if it's not working. And that's why, like, some books, as you say, like sometimes they need that really big list of or that heavy outline. But then some books you just fly off the seat of your pants.
I think also because I've been in this world for a while with the deaths, that I know them well.
Yeah.
And see, maybe if I did that like immediately, like with no background or experience, that would be harder. But I think because I've already I know these characters already, I know what they're about. I think it's kind of coming more easily now
Yeah.
that, maybe when I do something new though, then yeah, I mean, you always want to outline a little bit, I'm sure. Like,
Yeah, it's good to have like a little bit of an outline. Uh, the book that I'm writing right now, the second Outrider book, I had some general outlines, but it wasn't nearly as detailed as the first Outrider book.
yeah, absolutely. So, all right, we're going to, I believe our next book plug should be Barker's Rules by Alec Pangea. So, Alec, if you're in the background, let's get a rolling.
Here it is again, folks. Barker's Rules, the debut fiction novel of your producer, Alec Pangea here. It is all about Melanie Greer facing Barker, the superhuman serial killer from the Meridian, in a desperate fight for survival. I'm going to read you a little bit of the back right now. Justin Barker has only 3 rules, and you don't want to break them. So what will Melanie do? Will she escape? Will she be free of him at last? Or will breaking the rules lead her to a terrible fate? Find out by buying it on Amazon, please. Our next section, led by Mr. Andrew Best, brings us the topic together. We will be right back after this brief message.
And what's up, Matt? It's been a while.
What is going on, my dude? How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Just getting everything done, all the writing done, and taking on new responsibilities here at Dropline. So it seems.
They just keep adding stuff onto it, right?
Hey, I get my hands in a little bit of everything here at One True Promotion, which is exactly what our topic is going to be about today, because we're going to talk about a big boy topic going into this independent author business, and that's, of course, marketing. Every independent author needs to know how to market, right?
Yeah, that's a big rule that they don't tell you about when they say you can self-publish.
I wish they did, because it's a huge issue when you get there and be like, hey, I published my book. Now what? Oh, I got to market this thing? You kidding me? All right, so like we got to be real here, right?
Yeah.
One of the huge platforms you've been using is Instagram. Mm-hmm. And Instagram has changed its formula. It's fairly recent, but Reels have been such a huge impact with Instagram. They're trying to be more like the other platforms like TikTok. So you've been doing the Reels a lot longer than this new algorithm. But the new focus is we're going to focus more on Reels and less about pictures. So more traffic's getting switched over to these Reels. So my question to you is, how do we use Reels to market as an independent author?
That's a great question. Kind of most of it is just flying by the seat of your pants, see what sticks. Because for me, it's because I'm still trying to find the right, I guess, niche to do for reels. Like I've been dipping my toes into promoting my book on reels. I try and promote writing tips on reels. I try to promote Dungeons and Dragons on reels, and then I of course promote my sword reels. The sword reels have kind of been the ones that have stuck the most. Those are the ones that end up getting more traction. So I've decided to probably make those my priorities versus book reels, because book reels they're tough to do, because with a sword I can kind of just go out and say, hey, here's the parts of a sword, here's how you would swing this sword, like endless stuff I could do with it. With a book, it's really tough to just do a reel of like put your book down and like maybe do a zoom or have audio around it. So those ones, I will say, you definitely need, for anyone who wants to do book reels, is to find inspiration. That's really where I get book reel ideas from. Is like the most recent book reel I did was like that weird, like spending your money on these certain things and then making the sandwich out of the things that you buy.
Oh yeah.
That one, never would have thought to do that until I saw it on my feed.
Another version of it that I've been seeing all over the place, especially with romance authors like Sarah Sutton, they usually have like a little bit of a setup. So it's like you talk about a little bit of the plot, but you present it as if it's a problem that you're currently facing. So like, for example, like one of the things I've seen from Sarah was she'll talk about how she kisses her best friend, but he's been blindfolded at a party. So he has no idea that, they kissed, but now she's getting feelings for him. And then all of a sudden the book just appears on the reel. It's really interesting how, I've seen that done. Yeah. So it's really fascinating to me how many different facets there are to market yourself as an independent author.
Yeah, absolutely. And going off of that subject, like with the romance novels, the one that I see the most often pop up is like, he's a 10, but he does this or something, and then it shows the book, and I'm like, oh man, I need to do that, but I don't know what he's a 10 in my book. I don't know if he's a 10.
I mean, Drake's a 10.
Yeah, but there you go.
But that's the last thing you ever see. So
go ahead. Sorry.
So like, walk me through the process, right? We go to Instagram, we hit the reel button. What do you do from there?
Well, so for me, it's I hit the reel button, and a lot of the times it's, you spend an hour trying to figure out the takes. You try and align it just correctly. You might mess up. Like if you're trying to do like like there's a voiceover and you're trying to sync the audio, that takes multiple takes. I did one of those a while back, and it was a co-op one with DM Sontag, and she said, "Oh yeah, he did that on like the first take." I was like, "No, I sent you a good take. That doesn't mean that was the first take." So yeah, like that's half of the battle, is just kind of, figuring out, the way I say it, is your choreography for the reels. Then of course it comes down to editing, and then the biggest battle that I have tried to figure out with doing reels is the audio and I guess it's the filter, because sometimes it tries to tell you like, oh, this is a trending filter, and I'm like, yeah, but that's like, it's like, it looks like film grain. Like, how is that gonna help?
Yeah, and you have to find the right one that suits your book.
Exactly.
Like there's not that many that you could look at and be like, oh, that one's gonna work. Oh no, that one's gonna work.
Yeah.
And I think, like you said, because it's not something that's super common, it's really hard to narrow down that one filter. Is like, you know what, I can make this work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm surprised at this point, with all the bookstagrammers who have been doing book reels, that there's no, filter for books, like one that, everyone is using. It's the one that, can help you get the most traction. So that's a frustrating thing about the Instagram algorithm, is, it's ever changing, and it's not friendly to picture promotion anymore.
No. And it's like, I feel like we as independent authors have to learn how to scramble and have to be able to keep up on trends. I know this switch with Instagram's caught me by surprise, because as you know, I left, right? Like I picked up my ball and I went home for a bit. I took a vacation. And I come back and all of a sudden Instagram's different. I post my posts. Usually I'm used to getting X amount of likes. And I was like, I'm getting like 10 likes on my last picture. I'm like, wait, what's going on here? And I'm doing the research, and it turns out that they're suppressing regular photo pictures, and they're promoting the reels. So they want you to do the reels more so than the picture stills. And it's a huge issue that the actual Instagram representative is online, quote, talking about it. And like, hey, I understand this is an issue for a lot of people to post pictures, but we really need to go in this direction to keep up with the millennial and Gen Z trends.
Ugh. And it's like that wasn't the draw for Instagram though. Like that I joined in, like I started doing a lot of stuff on Instagram is because you just post a picture and then you just talk, like, or you have your spiel that you add to it. Like it was easy, it was simple. But now with the real game, it's a lot more production for not as it's hit or miss return as well. Like, you know, you could put all this time and effort into the reel, and like sometimes I walk away with like, oh, only like 100 people looked at this. Cool, that was 5 hours of my life I'm not getting back. But then I will tell you anyone a trick as well for Instagram with posting. It's not completely dead. It's just with the algorithm, they promote face, like your actual face, more than just still images. So like if you wanted to put up just a still picture of your book, it'll get more traction if you have it like next to your face.
And that's something that I did when I did the challenge that you sent, right? The way I filmed the 5 reasons why you won't like Sanguinary Song, I had to do something different each reel. So it's like the first reel I had the book like right here, then it was right here, then it was right here, then I had Drake like on the corner here. You know, it was I felt like I had to do something different, and that video got so much traction.
Yeah, that's great to hear.
And I was like, well, I guess this is what my life is from now on. I got to sit around thinking of like these weird reels, and then it's like I'm gonna have to implement them, and maybe I'll get the recognition that I'm looking for out of these.
Exactly, and that's again just the thing that I'll lament forever is, you know, the reels are such a hit or miss. It's with posts there was a lot more middle ground. You know, a lot of them it was guaranteed. Like I remember when I first joined the community with you guys, we were all, when everyone was posting daily, we were getting like 50 to 60 likes every post. Now we barely get half of that because of the algorithm.
So with that in mind, what would be your pro tips as to promoting on Instagram going forward? Because usually we promote on multiple platforms, but if Instagram is going to be something that us independent authors are going to keep using, how do we sort of adapt to this new system?
I think the main thing is to go into Instagram with a set theme. Like, you know, us as indie authors, like we have multiple skills. Like we all bring different expertises to the table. Like you guys, you have stellar production quality. Like that's the kind of stuff that I'm sure a lot of people would love to also see on Instagram as well. Like how you guys work on your show, like just like behind the scenes stuff is fascinating. I think someone else, I'm trying to think, Sean Donovan on Instagram, he's really big on, just bringing comedy, doing comedic reels. And so that's my main suggestion, is to go into the Instagram game with a theme that's not necessarily all about your books, but it's something that you have as a backup that you can fall back on.
Awesome. So we're getting to this point of the show where usually we give you guys a chance to read your work if you're interested, or tell us where to go. We're a little bit of both. Like, how do we, support you? If you want to read a little bit of the sample, you're absolutely free to do so. Totally up to you. You're running the show at this point.
Cool. Well, I'll do a quick plug. So I'm Matthew Romeo. I'm a science fiction and fantasy author. Most of my work is available on Amazon. The Maven Knight trilogy, the whole trilogy, is out for ebook and paperback, all on Amazon. My 4th book, Arrhenius, book 1 of the Outrider saga, is also available for ebook and paperback. I'm primarily active on Instagram at matthew.s.romeo, and then I'm also here on Facebook. I'm trying to test the waters at YouTube, but I haven't really figured out what I want to do for YouTube yet. But with that in mind, I could read a little quick, like maybe a few paragraphs of the first page of Arrhenius, if you would like.
Go for it.
Alrighty. So, Chapter 1. 4509.0801 FT star system Vadkale, 3.2 light years from the planet Asmodum, GST 1930. Alex Zero was a soldier first, a thief second, and an actor third. Well, at least he thought he could act. It was absurd to think about. Acting wasn't even a real career, just a necessary habit he had to use while trying to be a thief. His career as a soldier had taught him to be honest, but being a thief in the fringe required some damn good role-playing. Tonight, he had to bring his acting A game. Keeping that in mind, he and his date walked with a steady stride toward the grand velvet-covered stairs leading to the casino. He kept his pace measured, so as to stay in sync with the woman on his left, her slender arm linked with his. "It's just another job, Alec," he reminded himself, jutting his chest out as he took a deep breath. "And it's certainly not the first time you've stolen from pirates." If you're interested in more, make sure to check out Arrhenius.
All right. That was amazing. I'm so glad you decided to share. So next up, we're going to have another set of commercial breaks. And when we come back, we're going to actually have a brand new, never before seen edition of the Hot Seat. Stick around, folks.
Right.
You don't want to miss it. All right, so we're back and we're doing a never before seen version of the Hot Seat. Woo! Typically, what we do here is we ask one person a very difficult question and they have to give a response real quickly. So we got the whole panel this time. So I'm putting all of y'all on the hot seat. All right, you guys
Bring it
ready?
on. Bring it on.
All right. So first question: if we discover an alien species, do you think that they'll be hostile or friendly to us?
Probably hostile.
Hostile.
I'm going to be playing the musical notes from Close Encounters of the Third Kind, so hopefully friendly.
Definitely good responses here. Which do you think will be invented first, hyperspeed or hypersleep?
Ooh, I think hypersleep because it's easy to freeze people.
Hypersleep is my weekend shift.
Yeah. I think hyperspeed. Why not? I have faith.
Awesome. Next one. Which would you prefer? A world where space colonization / exploration is standard, or a world where androids and technology have improved basically every part of humanity?
I'm going to go with the first one because that second one, androids, that's a recipe for robot revolution.
Yeah, I'm with you on there, Matt. Yeah, colonization, exploration. I was thinking like Star Trek, explore. So the other one sounds like I see Terminator. And so, yeah.
I prefer androids because I love the Auto Realm series. What can I say? I just wish it was real. Oh, what is the Auto Realm series, Andrew?
So, I might as well pause the hot seat for a nice little short story plug. But the Auto Realm series is essentially a story about a world where the pandemic has pretty much ravaged 2/3 of the population, and the government has commissioned androids to take over the workforce for us so that we can start repopulating society. So, of course, we get these complex androids who want everything to do about our society. They even want to be considered as real people. So, of course, that's Auto Realm. And right now, if you actually go to One True Promotion, our website, you can actually subscribe to our email list to get a copy of the sale, which is all about a story about a particular salesman who feels like he's being replaced by an android that has been hired by the company. So, of course, he has to outsell the android. Can he do it? You're going to have to go and subscribe to our website and our email list to get your free copy so that you can actually read and find out what's going to happen there.
It's a fascinating premise.
Isn't it? Love it, love it, love it. Website. Find our website.
We will be posting that eventually.
Yes.
I think we have. Do we have the website that we could actually put on the scrolling panel?
We're getting there.
Awesome.
If it's, yeah.
All right. So going back to the hot seat. Question number 4. Science fiction is a popular genre because of how it displays a world that is generally possible. Sci-fi horror flicks made famous by sci-fi generally displays how humanity often suffers because of a human need to dive too far into this new frontier. So my question to the panel, there is an old saying that when Pandora's box is open, there is no going back. In your opinion, which scientific exploration do you think is most harmful to mankind and why?
Ooh, most scientific explanations.
So you talk about all the topics that are covered in science fiction, whether it's technology, whether it's space exploration, whether it's genetics. Like, what sort of
Genetics.
topic is the worst that humanity can get into and why?
Definitely genetics for me. Definitely trying to make people superhuman or cure disease. Listen, we all know what's going to happen. We're going to have COVID number 2.
No, not again. I'd go with exploration because I feel like that there's stuff out there that we're just not meant to find. And it's, as you say, Pandora's box. Like, we should not open that box.
I would say for me it's AI, but not just AI by itself. The combination of AI and military technology, I think that's gonna go somewhere, and that's gonna go somewhere bad, in my opinion.
Skynet.
I mean, that's the first thing most people think of.
Yeah.
I was gonna, in fact, I was gonna ask you, Andrew, where do you fall on that?
Definitely AI, advanced AI.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I mean, you have to ask yourself whether or not when technology does eventually be sentient, is it going to be for the good of humanity or for the bad of humanity? And, you know, if you watch anything Terminator, you know that it's just not going to end well for us. So
They'll just look at our Google searches.
Yeah. Well,
all right.
Didn't you hear there's a Google AI that became sentient in the news
no.
recently? Yeah.
Don't
so you're
say
already
that.
onto it, man.
No.
I'm
All
out.
right.
I'm out.
Final question of the hot seat. This is a big one. You are being hunted by a hive of xenomorphs. If you could hire one person or group to protect you from this terrible, terrible monstrosity in this world of science fiction, who would you choose?
The natural answer to that, Andrew, is the Predator.
Only the Predator can save
Only
you.
the Predator.
Which are the xenomorphs from again? Sorry.
From Alien.
That's the Alien. Okay, yeah.
Just don't be hugged by the face huggers. That's all I'm going to say.
I'm going to pick a weird answer. I'll get Deckard from Blade Runner because it doesn't really make sense, but it'll be fun. I don't know. He'll try to decommission them or whatever. It'll be fun. Harrison Ford's cool.
I would hire Ridley. Hello.
Ridley.
That's the OG.
She's got me. We're good. We're pals. I'll pay her a little extra money. At least if everybody else dies, I'll survive.
There you go. And of course, that is our brand new version of the hot seat featuring the whole panel. Little round of
Whole
applause for
panel.
you guys. That was very well done.
Very good. Very
Thank
good.
you.
That was fun.
All righty. So as we round out the show, how about we just go around the panel real quick and we'll just reiterate. Let's real quick. What books are we selling? What do we need as support? We'll start with you, Andrew.
So I'm the author of the Sanguinary series, and it's interesting enough. We talked about marketing and how important it is. So I've always associated marketing your book like giving a good promo in a wrestling company. Okay, so here's my promo. The Sanguinary series is a supernatural first in the Sanguinary series of magical YA novels. It's all about a young girl named Christina who is just discovered as she's a witch, and she has to understand what the heck that means. So she has to learn what it means to be a witch, all while trying to avoid a dark history that's been chasing her all her life. And of course, the Sanguinary series is available on Amazon. It is available for paperback and ebook. You definitely want to go to Amazon and check it out. And of course, I already mentioned the auto realm. What more could you like than androids in our society and sentient beings who want to be everyday people? So go head over to our website, go subscribe to our email list, and get a copy of the sale today.
Amazing. And I, again, am the author of Barker's Rules, the first of the Meridian novels, about a series of society of superhumans who believe themselves above the law. The protagonist is Melanie Greer, a regular girl who is taken out of her home and thrust into the terrible world of Justin Barker, one of the worst and most violent and powerful of these Meridian killers. How is she, a regular old 16-year-old girl who was recently just worried about her math homework, going to navigate this cruel and devastating reality? Find out by buying Barker's Rules on Amazon. I am also writing a new series called Calipar. The first book is co-authored by myself and my wife, Carrie Pangea, and it's all about a demon killer. Demons have overthrown the earth. And in the small town of Ark, one man who has a very secret object in his possession might be the town of Ark's only hope to stave an incoming invasion. Find out what happens when you read Calipar. Nick, how about you?
Yeah, Life is Death, the death of Earth. And since I've already talked about it, I'll talk about each of the deaths, actually. Get to know a little bit of the deaths. But to sum up, a death must kill 1,000 people per month. If they succeed, they age and live forever and are immortal. If they do not, they die. Daichi Hara is a young 16-year-old boy whose parents died in a house fire many years ago. He has a few friends at high school, but he's young and inexperienced as far as he's concerned. But he finds out his father, Yoshito, was the previous Earth death. Then there is John Maddox, the chain-smoking American fire death. He's over 100 years old, and he fought in World War II and chased down probably the most prominent death, which is Mirko Fleischer, the German water death, who took over Hitler through the blood in his body and carried out all the acts of World War II using Hitler as his puppet. He is easily the most powerful death and the main antagonist of the story. And then there is also Edmund Barclay, the Wind Death. He's an Englishman who accompanies John Maddox, that we see in a flashback, to try and take down Mr. Mirko during World War II. So that's a little bit about Life is Death, the death of Earth.
Ooh.
And to our guest, tell us all about it. You've got two series.
Alrighty, so first series is the Maven Knight trilogy. It is a science fantasy series available on Amazon for ebook and paperback. Thank you, Alec. It follows the story of the Maven Knights, which were the mythical warriors of the old world with their fancy suits and their magic powers. My fourth book, Irenaeus, is a science fiction heist story. It follows a protagonist known as Alec Zero, who used to be in the Sol Imperium Armada, but he is now nothing more than a cunning thief. The book is a heist story, and we'll see if they are able to succeed.
Amazing. Matt, we so appreciate you joining us tonight and promoting your books. We are a big fan of you and your work, but also just, again, you in general. We love chatting with you. This has been a great discussion this evening. How'd you like being here?
Dude, it's always a pleasure getting to chat with you guys. Like, I love doing this. Like, you guys are awesome. So thank you guys for having me on here.
And thank you for being here. And that is our show for this evening. Again, thank you for dropping by. I am Alec, the Director of Broadcasting.
I'm Andrew, Chief Operating Officer.
And Nicholas, the Arts and Media Director.
And we hope that this episode left you invigorated to read some sci-fi books and get into some crazy adventures. We wish you well and hope you'll join us next week for our next guest. Matt, have a great night. Thank you for watching, everyone.